In the winter of 1647, English soldiers walked into private kitchens and took the meat off the fire. Not stolen. Confiscated. By law. Because in June of that year, the English Parliament passed an ordinance abolishing Christmas. Not discouraging it. Abolishing it. The same document did away with Easter and Whitsun for good measure, and it stayed in force for 13 years. Shops were ordered to stay open on the 25th. Churches were ordered to stay shut. Constables pulled holly and ivy down off doorframes because greenery on a house in December counted as evidence. And in 1644, 3 years earlier, Parliament had arranged for the monthly fast day to land on Christmas Day itself. So the one day an Englishman ate until he could not stand became officially the day he did not eat at all, a fast, on Christmas. I have had fasts. I called mine Tuesday, and it was not voluntary. And that is not the strange part. The strange part is that it mostly worked. For 13 years in the most Christmas-mad country in Europe, the thing simply stopped. The strange part is that when people finally fought back, they fought over a goose and it helped start a war. And the strangest part is who won the argument in the end, because it was not Parliament and it was not the king either. So why would anyone do this? Because they hated fun is the version you get in school, and it is lazy. The men who abolished Christmas were Puritans, and their objection was specific. Find me Christmas in Scripture. You cannot. There is no date given for the birth, no instruction to mark it, no feast commanded. What there was, in their reading, was a Roman invention bolted onto a pagan midwinter, a holy day invented by men rather than given by God. And in the 17th century, invented by men was a serious charge, but the theology was only half of it. The other half was what English Christmas actually looked like, and it did not look like a carol service. It looked like 12 days of drinking. Gambling the authorities pretended not to see. Men dressed as women. A household servant elected Lord of Misrule with real authority over his own master. Plays, disguises, doors kicked in by singers demanding drink, and a great deal of work for the magistrate in January. Ronald Hutton, who wrote the standard account of the English festive year, describes a calendar of licensed disorder, rules suspended by general agreement, which is charming when you read it in a book. Less charming if you were the parish constable. I would have been Lord of Misrule by the second night and dead of it by the fourth. So the Puritans were not banning a nativity. They were banning a fortnight-long party with a religious label on it. Now, enforcement. You can pass an ordinance in London. Making it real in 10,000 villages is a different job, and it fell to soldiers and church wardens. And while those soldiers are lacing their boots, do me one favor and like this video and subscribe. Costs nothing, and unlike Christmas in 1647, nobody is going to confiscate it. Right? The soldiers, the church wardens' accounts show it because those men had to write down what they spent. Payments for taking down greenery, payments for keeping the church door locked, and in some parishes, quiet payments to a preacher who did the old service anyway. The best account comes from John Evelyn, who kept a diary most of his adult life and had no reason to lie in it. Christmas Day in 1657. Evelyn goes to a private chapel in London for a service which is, at that point, illegal. Soldiers surround the building. They wait until the congregation has taken communion, and then they come inside and arrest everyone in the room. Evelyn is held and questioned by officers who want to know why he is observing a superstitious day. He talked his way out of it. I would not have. I would have given up every name in the building by the second question, then apologized, then offered up a few names of people who were not even there. Think about that for a second. Soldiers, standing outside a church on Christmas morning, counting the people who come out. Which brings us to Canterbury and the goose, December 1647. The mayor of Canterbury orders the market opened on Christmas Day as the new law requires. The town does not comply. The shops that did open had their windows broken. A crowd formed. It grew. Then it stopped being a crowd and became a mob, and by the end they had beaten the mayor, seized the city gates, and armed themselves. That is a riot over Christmas dinner, and it did not stay a riot. Kent was already angry about a great many things, and the following spring, it rose. Part of the second round of the English Civil War. Historians of the period, Chris Durston among them, trace a direct line from those Christmas disorders to the Kentish Rising of 1648. But the resistance that actually worked was not the riot. It was paper. The band produced a pamphlet war, and the Puritans lost it badly. The most effective attacks were not theological arguments. They were jokes. Old Christmas got written as a character, an old man, white-bearded, hunted, sleeping in ditches, asking why he had been driven out of a place that used to love him. One of the best of them, The Vindication of Christmas, is credited to John Taylor, who called himself the water poet, and who made his living rowing passengers across the Thames. A man who ferried drunks for a wage wrote sharper propaganda than the English Parliament managed. I find that genuinely comforting, because you cannot argue a country out of its holiday. You can only make the ban look ridiculous. And they did. Then in 1660 the king came back. Charles II was restored, and the legal position was simple. The acts of that parliament were void, and so was the ban. Christmas was legal again. Bells, feasts, the lot. But here's the twist. It did not come back the same. 13 years is a long time, long enough for a generation to grow up without it. The Lord of Misrule did not return. The 12-day suspension of the social order did not return. What came back was smaller, quieter, more domestic. A family dinner instead of a fortnight of chaos. And the Christmas you actually celebrate, with the tree and the cards and the sentiment, is largely a Victorian reconstruction, built 2 centuries later on the gap the Puritans left. They lost. But they did not lose everything. They killed the party and left the dinner, and in one place they did not lose at all. Scotland abolished Yule earlier than England did, and there it stuck. Christmas Day was not a public holiday in Scotland until 1958. Not 1758, 1958. There are people alive now who worked an ordinary shift on Christmas morning and thought nothing of it. In their country, that is simply what the day was. Massachusetts had a go as well, fining people 5 shillings a time for keeping Christmas, and kept that law for 22 years. So the next time somebody tells you Christmas is under attack, you can tell them that it has been, properly, by armed men with a legal mandate and a printing press against them. And that it came out a smaller, better-behaved holiday than it went in. Nobody is coming for your goose this year, but somebody once had to lose a war so that you could keep it.